When Elon Musk sat before a panel of sharp-tongued senators, no one expected his calm demeanor to shatter their criticism with a vision so bold, it left the entire room speechless. The room was packed, the kind of tension that comes when power collides with ambition. Senate hearings weren't new to the headlines, but this one felt different. Washington, D.C.'s Russell Senate office building was buzzing with anticipation. Journalists clutched their notepads, photographers adjusted their lenses, and staffers whispered in corners. All eyes were on one man seated calmly at the long mahogany table, Elon Musk. The hearing wasn't just about him, though. It was about SpaceX, the company that had captured the world's imagination and fueled countless debates. At stake was nothing less than the future of America's leadership in space. Over the past year, delays in satellite launches, whispers of safety oversights, and growing competition from international players had drawn criticism. Today, senators from both sides of the aisle were determined to get answers. Musk, in his signature style, exuded a calm confidence. His tailored grey suit was a nod to the occasion, but his demeanor suggested he was ready for more than just a polite exchange of words. He wasn't the type to crumble under pressure, and everyone in the room knew it. Still, as the committee chair cleared his throat and leaned into the microphone, there was no mistaking the stakes. "Mr. Musk," the chair began, his voice steady but firm, "we've called you here today to address growing concerns about SpaceX's ability to meet its commitments. Can you explain the delays in your satellite launch schedule and the implications for national security?" Musk folded his hands, pausing briefly as the room fell silent. His gaze shifted from the chair to the rows of senators watching him intently. Cameras clicked. For a moment, it seemed as though even the air in the room was holding its breath. "Well," Musk started, his voice measured, "I think the best way to understand the delays is to first understand the nature of what we're trying to achieve." It wasn't just a response, it was a challenge. A challenge to see beyond the numbers, the schedules, and the politics. The tension in the room thickened, setting the stage for what would become one of the most unforgettable exchanges in recent congressional history. The room didn't wait long to erupt. Senator Evelyn Brooks from Massachusetts leaned forward, her voice sharp and unyielding. "Mr. Musk, with all due respect, understanding is not the issue here. We're talking about accountability. SpaceX has received substantial government contracts, and yet we're seeing delays and reports of safety concerns. Are you telling us these setbacks are simply the nature of the business?" Musk didn't flinch. His expression remained calm, though his eyes narrowed ever so slightly. "Space is hard," he said plainly, as if those 3 words could sum up the entirety of human history in the cosmos. Every launch is a high-stakes endeavor, involving countless variables that no amount of planning can fully control. Senator Brooks wasn't satisfied. "Hard? Mr. Musk, the American people deserve more than platitudes. They deserve results. Taxpayers have a right to know if their money is being well spent." Before Musk could respond, Senator Carl Harrison from Ohio chimed in. His tone was less confrontational but equally pointed. "Let's be clear about what's at stake. Delays in launching satellites aren't just inconvenient. They could have serious implications for national security. Other nations are advancing rapidly in the space race. Can SpaceX keep up? Or are we putting all our eggs in a basket that might not hold?" The tension in the room climbed higher. Musk leaned back slightly in his chair, his fingers tapping the table rhythmically as he considered his response. For a moment, it seemed as though he might deliver a sharp retort. Instead, he surprised the room with a deep breath and a disarming candor. "I understand your concerns," he began. "And you're right. Delays are frustrating. They're frustrating for me, too. No one feels the pressure of these timelines more than I do. But let me ask you something. How do you measure progress when you're trying to do something no one else has done before?" A ripple of murmurs spread through the audience. Musk wasn't deflecting. He was reframing the conversation. His calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the intensity of the questions being hurled his way. The senators exchanged glances, unsure of how to proceed. Senator Brooks, not one to be derailed, pressed on. "Mr. Musk, this isn't just about ambition. It's about safety. We've heard reports of near misses during testing, concerns from engineers about cutting corners. That's not true, Musk interjected firmly, his voice carrying an edge that silenced the room. I've never been one to compromise safety. If anything, we've delayed launches specifically to ensure safety protocols are followed to the letter. SpaceX is not about shortcuts. It's about pushing boundaries responsibly. The silence that followed was heavy. Musk had drawn a line in the sand, and the senators could feel it. But what none of them realized yet was that he was just getting started.
Musk leaned forward, his fingers interlaced on the table, and took a moment to meet the eyes of each senator. It wasn't defiance in his expression. It was determination. When he spoke again, his tone was steady, deliberate. Space exploration is unlike anything else humanity undertakes, Musk began. Every launch carries the weight of thousands of people's efforts, years of innovation, and millions of dollars. And despite all that, there are no guarantees. Rockets fail, systems break. Space doesn't care about schedules or budgets. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. When I started SpaceX, I knew it wasn't going to be easy. I didn't expect perfect outcomes every time. But what I did expect, and what I demand from myself and my team, is that we never stop trying, because the stakes are too high to play it safe. The senators listened intently, some furrowing their brows, others leaning back in their chairs as if reassessing their approach. Musk's voice took on a reflective tone, pulling the room further into his perspective. "Let me be honest," he said. "We've had setbacks. Some of them have been public and painful. Losing a rocket, watching a payload fail, it's devastating. But what's even more devastating is the idea of not trying at all. Do you know how many people told me it couldn't be done? That private companies have no business in space? That NASA and governments were the only entities capable of this work?" He gestured broadly with his hands, as if addressing the universe itself. "I didn't listen then, and I won't listen now, because every failure we face brings us closer to success. Every delay, every mistake, it's all part of the process of achieving something monumental." Musk leaned back slightly, his voice softening, but his words no less impactful. "We're not just launching satellites or building rockets. We're building the future. And the future doesn't come without struggle." The room was silent. The usual hustle and bustle of a congressional hearing had stilled. Even Senator Brooks, who had led the initial wave of tough questions, seemed momentarily disarmed. Musk's candor wasn't what anyone had expected, and it left a mark. Before anyone could break the silence, Musk leaned in again, a spark of fire returning to his eyes. "I know the delays and setbacks make it seem like we're faltering, but I assure you, we're not. We're learning, and learning is the foundation of progress." His words hung in the air like a challenge. The senators exchanged glances, unsure whether to push back or let him continue. Musk had shifted the narrative, and everyone in the room could feel it. The silence in the room was thick, but Musk wasn't done. His voice softened, taking on a tone that seemed to transcend the hearing itself, as if he were addressing not just the senators, but the world watching. "I understand why you're concerned," Musk continued, his eyes scanning the room. "You see delays and failures. You see risks, but what I see is a future that's worth every single challenge we face. I see a world where humanity is no longer confined to one fragile planet. A world where we're not just surviving but thriving across the stars." The room shifted slightly, a few senators leaning forward in their chairs. Musk's words weren't just technical, they were deeply personal. "Do you know why I'm doing this?" Musk asked, his voice steady but charged with emotion. "It's not for fame. It's not for fortune. It's because I believe in humanity. I believe we have a responsibility to ensure our survival, not just for the next decade or century, but for the next million years. And that means looking beyond Earth." He paused, his expression almost wistful. "Earth is beautiful, but it's also fragile. Natural disasters, climate change, wars, they remind us of just how vulnerable we are. If we stay here, confined to this one planet, we're gambling with our entire existence. Space is our insurance policy. It's our chance to secure the survival of our species." His words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of their implications. Musk leaned forward, his intensity palpable. I know it sounds ambitious, maybe even impossible, but every great achievement in human history started as an impossible idea. The light bulb, the airplane, the internet, they were all dreams before they became reality. A senator from Texas, who had remained quiet until now, spoke up. Mr. Musk, ambition is one thing, but how do you justify the cost? The resources, the risks? What makes it worth it? Musk's eyes met the senator's, unwavering. What makes it worth it? The chance to rewrite our destiny, to ensure that our children and their children inherit not just a world, but a universe of possibilities. He let the words sink in before continuing. When you think about it, every dollar spent on space exploration is an investment in inspiration. It's a statement that we refuse to settle for mediocrity, that we choose to aim higher, not just for ourselves, but for future generations. That's what makes it worth it. Musk's voice grew softer, almost reverent. I don't know if I'll see Mars colonized in my lifetime, but if I can lay the foundation, if SpaceX can be the stepping stone for humanity to reach the stars, then every failure, every delay, every sleepless night will have been worth it. The room was captivated. Even the most skeptical senators seemed to be grappling with the sheer scope of his vision. Musk wasn't just defending SpaceX, he was defending humanity's right to dream. For a moment, the room felt like it had been struck by an invisible force. The senators, usually quick to jump in with rebuttals or follow-ups, sat in silence. Musk's words hung in the air, their weight undeniable. The usual clatter of typing from reporters had ceased, as if no one dared to break the spell. Senator Evelyn Brooks was the first to regain her composure. Clearing her throat, she leaned forward and addressed Musk directly, though her tone had softened. Mr. Musk, I'll admit, your vision is compelling, but compelling visions don't always align with practical governance. How do you propose we balance ambition with accountability? Musk met her gaze, his demeanor unwavering. By not treating them as opposites, he replied. Ambition without accountability is reckless, but accountability without ambition is stagnation. The two must work together, pushing boundaries responsibly, while never losing sight of the bigger picture. Brooks nodded slightly, though her expression remained guarded. Across the room, other senators appeared lost in thought, their usual fire tempered by Musk's disarming sincerity. Even Senator Harrison, who had pressed Musk earlier about national security risks, seemed contemplative as he scribbled notes on a legal pad. The public reaction was equally electric. Across social media, clips of Musk's passionate defense began to circulate in real time. Hashtags like Space for All and Have Future on Mars trended within minutes, sparking debates about the role of private companies in space exploration and the moral imperative of aiming for the stars. One particularly poignant clip showed Musk's response to the Texas senator's question, his voice cracking slightly as he spoke of rewriting humanity's destiny. Comment sections lit up with arguments, praise, and skepticism, but one thing was clear. People were paying attention. Back in the hearing room, the committee chair tapped his microphone, bringing the proceedings back to order. Mr. Musk, he said, his tone measured, your commitment to this cause is evident, but as stewards of public trust, we must ensure that this vision is carried out responsibly. That said, I believe you've given us much to consider. Musk nodded, offering a polite smile. I hope so, he said simply, because this isn't just about SpaceX or me. It's about all of us. The decisions we make today will define the kind of future we leave behind. The chair gave a small nod in return before turning to address the room. This hearing will recess for a short break. We'll reconvene in 30 minutes. As the senators rose and shuffled out, the energy in the room shifted. Reporters swarmed Musk, their cameras flashing and microphones thrust forward. But Musk, ever composed, rose from his seat and walked calmly toward the exit, flanked by his team. His face betrayed no emotion, but his words had already left an indelible mark. The hearing resumed after the break, but the energy had shifted. The senators returned to their seats with a subdued air, their earlier combativeness tempered by Musk's profound words. While the hearing continued with procedural questions and discussions of technicalities, the fiery rhetoric that had marked the beginning was gone. Musk had done something rare in Washington. He had moved the room. By the end of the session, it was clear that the senators weren't unanimous in their opinions. Some remained skeptical, clinging to concerns about accountability and oversight. Others, however, seemed to have developed a newfound respect for the man sitting before them. Musk wasn't just a CEO defending his company, he was a visionary defending a dream that resonated with something deeper in the human spirit. As the hearing adjourned, Musk stood, shook hands with a few senators, and made his way to the hall outside. Reporters descended on him once again, shouting questions about the future of SpaceX, the possibility of government intervention, and his personal feelings about the hearing. Musk, as always, gave little away. "We'll keep working," he said simply. "That's what matters." The story dominated the evening news. Pundits debated the merits of Musk's arguments, with some calling him a modern-day pioneer, and others dismissing his vision as overly idealistic. Yet, across dinner tables and in coffee shops, the public wasn't discussing the usual politics of the hearing. They were talking about humanity's future and what it might mean to leave Earth behind. One moment in particular seemed to resonate most. Musk's declaration that failure was part of progress and that the future was worth every risk struck a chord. For some, it was a reminder of humanity's resilience. For others, it was a call to think bigger, to dream beyond the constraints of the present. But for Musk, it wasn't about winning arguments or swaying opinions. As he left the hearing that day, his thoughts were already on the next launch, the next challenge, the next step in his mission to take humanity to the stars. The moral of his message was simple. Progress demands courage, and the future belongs to those who are willing to face failure with unwavering resolve. In the end, the hearing wasn't just about SpaceX or even space exploration. It was about a choice to rise above fear and doubt and aim for something greater. And for a moment, even in the contentious halls of Washington, that choice felt possible.